to Wildwood Cottage and welcome back to a windy, wet, horrible Wales today. I just thought I'd come in and say hello, and I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're all having a good week so far, and that you've got some nice weather where you are, because we haven't. We've had rain for weeks now. I think we've had the sun twice since last year in November, and yeah, it's getting very frustrating because I can't get out in the garden, I can't do any outside jobs, and yeah, I'm getting a bit, feel like I'm getting a bit of cabin fever. So I thought I'd come and talk to you guys today and have a little catch up and read you a little ditty that I've found in a book that I've been rummaging in, and I found it and I thought that I would share it with you. It's called The Nicest Day. The nicest day in all the year is one which isn't really clear. Whether it should be cold or hot, whether it should be wet or not. The day you sometimes get in spring with little bits of everything. The day which tempers hard precision with just a touch of indecision. In fact, the nicest day you'll find is one which can't make up its mind. I feel like that's the weather at the moment. I mean, it's quite mild, but it's horrible. It's windy, it's wet, and yeah, I'm snuggled up in front of the fire just waiting for my husband to come home. So I thought that I'd say hello to you and give you a couple of frugal tips for today. And a couple of things I've been thinking about and pondering is my clothes, and I'm going to redo a couple of my clothes, and some of them have worn out completely and I really like them, and I thought I'd make new garments out of them by cutting round them and using fabric that I've got in storage at home. So one of the things that I found in this little book here called Make, Do and Mend, it's a wartime book. This is a reissue of leaflets that were done during the war. And I've been looking at something called What Mothers Can Do to Save Buying New, this little section here. And one of the things it says is about reinforcing children's clothes. Now, it's something I'd never really thought about. And one of the things it points about is knickers and socks. It talks about putting a new piece on the back, or underneath where it gets well worn. And then on your socks, it talks about doing reinforced heels, toes and cuffs. Now, I've never thought about doing that before, and the problem I have with handmade socks is that they wear out on me because I'm quite heavy wearing, because I wear wellies a lot, I wear boots a lot, because being in Wales it gets very wet. So one of my problems with socks is that they wear out a lot. So I don't wear socks for that reason, because it's a waste of money for me, because within a couple of weeks they've gone in holes and I can't wear them anymore. So for me it's a waste of money, and everyone laughs at me and says, don't you get cold feet? Well, I've been doing it for that long now. I don't get cold feet. It's one of the main parts of my body that doesn't get cold. And excuse me, I'm getting a bit warm. So yeah, reinforced socks is a really, really good idea. All you need to get is some darning thread from the sewing shop. It's getting a bit warm, so I've had to take my jacket off. Right, you get this thing called darning thread, and it's this stuff. And if you do make handmade socks, I paid 99p for this, and if your socks do go in holes, you can mend them with this stuff. Now, my husband's got a couple of pairs of socks that he really, really likes, and have gone into holes, so I've said I'll darn them for him. So this is wool and nylon for mending, so it's really, really worth it. It's 30% wool and 70% nylon. And like I say, I bought it in my local needlework shop, my fabric shop. So I've got 4 different colours. I've got two grey, I've got a brown, and I've got a black. So if you've got some good socks that you really like, or that are wool or have got wool in them, it's definitely worth repairing them. And saving yourself some money, because decent socks can be about £10 a pair, and it's quite expensive to replace them if all that's wrong with them is a hole in the toe or a hole in the heel, which is where my husband's socks have worn. So yeah, I'm going to repair them with this. So that was my first thing that I was thinking about. And then the next thing it talks about is cutting down grown-up clothes for children. Now, I have some clothes, that I bought in the charity shop, and I really like the fabric, and I thought it seems a waste to just throw them away when the fabric's really good. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just the dress wasn't really my style. So the dress that I've got was this one here. Now it's got lovely butterflies on it. It's got pockets. Now I love things with pockets because I pick things up and put things in my pockets. So it's got a couple of pockets on it, one either side, and it is stretchy fabric. So this one was one of those crossover tops, and you bend over and you flop everything out. So yeah, it wasn't really very practical, and it wasn't very ladylike, and it wasn't very modest either. And as you can see, I try to dress modest and cover all my bits up so other people can't see them. And that's just a biblical thing for me, a Christian thing for me. But I got this elastic to go on the top, and it goes well with the fabric that I've got. So all I'm going to do is pop a piece of elastic along the top like that, and get a new skirt out of it. I'm going to use this extra bit of fabric on the top and use that to try and attach the elastic onto the skirt above the pockets. So that's going to be a new skirt for the summer because it's a nice lightweight fabric for the summer. It's nice and floaty, and yeah, I'll get wear out of something that cost me £2 in the charity shop, and I think it was Laura Ashley as well. So that was another reason for not wanting to throw it away, because it's Laura Ashley, and I can get a lot of that round here in charity shops and that, and it just seemed a shame to throw it away when it's such a good fabric and such a nice fabric for the summer. So that's my first one. And then I've got these things that I do like to wear in the summer. I have like what's called a uniform, and it's a really good way of saving money. It's just a thing that I wear all the time for around the house when I'm working, instead of getting my nice clothes dirty, because I've got some things like jewels and Bowden and things like that. Plenty of Laura Ashley, Marks and Spencer, Peruna. I never ever pay full price for it. I always find them in the charity shops. We've got a couple of good charity shops here in my local town, and there's some quite well-to-do people around here, and they put all that kind of thing in the charity shop. So I can pick up Laura Ashley for £2 or £3. I picked up a Jules dress the other day for £7. Nothing wrong with it. Pick up a toast dress for £7. Nothing wrong with it. Brand new. I picked up a Jules dress the other week, and that was £10, but that still had the brand new labels on it, and it was over £100 new. And I can pick up things like that, and it's a good way of being able to get nice clothes and not have to spend a shed load of money, because there's no way in this world I'd be able to spend £100 on a dress. But yeah, it's a really nice dress. I really like it. It's a nice long dress. It's got polka dots on it. It's not too tight fitting, and with a nice pair of boots and a nice cardigan over it. It's great for church, for going to church and looking nice and smart, because my husband preaches on a Sunday, and he's an elder in the church, so I don't like to go dressing really untidy and dossy and looking like I'm a pauper. So yeah, it's a good way for me to buy some nice clothes, look nice and smart, and be able to look good next to my husband. So that's what I do. But also what I want to do this year is start making my own clothes, so I'm not having to go to the charity shop all the time and buy new clothes. I mean, that's great, but I'm starting to think now, well, I've got a house full of fabric. It would be good to be able to use that fabric up. So that's my next point. I've got this dress which I've worn an awful lot. It was just a cheap dress I got on eBay, and this is my uniform, this type of dress. It's just a simple dress, which is like an apron dress. It's got pockets in the front. I can wear a t-shirt underneath or a strappy top underneath, and it's really practical for working. It's got 2 pockets on the front here, but it's just wearing out in the seam in the back, and I'm running out of fabric to be able to stitch it, and also it's got marks on it now that won't come off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the pattern out, and I've got some denim in storage, and I'm going to make a couple of nice new dresses out of that. So that's not going to go to waste. It's going to end up in a rug. I'm going to put the fabric into a rug when I've made the pattern from it, and then that rug is going to sit here in front of the stove and be a good rug for the kitchen. I've also got this one, which again is another dress, but it's very short on me now. When I was younger it didn't matter. It's a size 12, it's well worn. I used to wear it in the days when I was a gardener, and yeah, it's got nice pockets in it, which was always a plus. As you can see, there's a theme for pockets. It is 100% cotton denim, it has worn well. It's just a bit short on me now, so I'm thinking of piecing it at the bottom. It's not really too badly off. It's a couple of stains on it. Maybe I could dye it and get a bit more wear out of it. But again, I'm just going to cut the pattern out and make another dress out of it. So that's that. So I might put that into my rug as well once I've cut the pattern out. So that's my clothes tips for you today. I just thought they were really good, interesting tips really. But it does talk about using shirts and blazers and things like that for making children's clothes. I mean, there's a lovely little dress there made out of pyjamas, and a lady's top made out of a man's shirt. So yeah, there's some good tips for you. The other one was shoes and slippers of all sizes can be made from old felt hats, pieces of thick cloth. The best way is to take a pattern of the foot on a sheet of newspaper, drawing a line round it and allowing 1/8 of an inch to turning the top pieces should be cut into the pattern, so that you can actually fold up the sides to make the shoe. It says, looking after your shoes, remind children to wear slippers in the house, as it does save kicking out of at the toes and sitting with leather shoes in front of a fire. If your child has Wellingtons, see that they are only worn when it is raining. Rubber is scarce and they are an asset which may become difficult to possess. Always see that shoelaces are untied before children kick off their shoes. Now that's something I'm guilty of completely, just taking my shoes off and not undoing them. So clothes and shoes exchanges, we do have those round here. So yeah, they're really, really interesting. Also there's a section in here as to how to darn holes, so that's going to be really interesting for fixing my socks. So yeah, it's got a couple of different stitches and things in it. So yeah, it's a handy little book. Got some good tips out of that one. Right, the other thing on that subject was how to save money on electric boiling your kettle. When we were using the electric kettle, when we were using the electric kettle before we had this fitted, the kettles just stay on this all day, and every time they get emptied they get refilled and it stays on this, so we don't spend money on the kettle that much now. First thing in the morning my husband will boil it once to make a cup of tea when this isn't on, and then that's it then for the rest of the day. This burns all day, and the kettles keep everything warm, and I can keep my cup of coffee just on the edge there, and it keeps my coffee warm as well. But one thing I did do was tea cozies. Now these are great for insulating your teapot and keeping your cup of tea warm. So I've made this one, which is threads carried over at the back, and it's a typical old-fashioned vintage tea cosy. But now and again you can find them in the charity shop, and I found this one for 50p in the charity shop. So when we have guests come round and I make a pot of tea, I can now keep my teapot warm with this one. Now this one I've made, you could reduce the pattern down and make it for a smaller teapot. And there are some quite good patterns out there, but if I can find an old pattern for you, I'll pop it up on my blog, and you can make a tea cosy yourself. So that's a great way of saving money, because if you can find yourself a teapot that will fit 1 cup of tea or 2 cups of tea, however many are in your household, and then you could have a little tea cosy on the top of it and keep your tea warm. Instead of reboiling the kettle until your cup of tea is hot enough, you can just keep your tea warm in your teapot with your nice vintage tea cozies. So that's a nice thing to do as well. I've got another skirt to alter as well. I've got to take the elastic out and put some new elastic in. Again, that's another handy tip, is that if you have a skirt and it's a bit big for you and you want to change the waistline, just pop some elastic in the back with an extra bit of fabric in as to make a channel over the back, and because I'll show you this skirt that I've got to do. It's this one here. Now the elastic is just at the back there, just on the back here, and the elastic has gone and it's too big for the lady that I'm doing it for. So I'm taking the elastic out of the back, and there's like this little flap on the front. Now what I did on her other skirt that I did for her was sew that flap down, take that elastic out the back and just have a channel at the back, and thread a new piece of elastic through and just made it into a full elastic waist skirt with the right size elastic in, and she's delighted with it. The skirt fits her great now, so I've just got to do that with this one for her for next week, so I'm going to crack on with that today as well. Because the weather's so dull and so horrible, it's just one of those days where you just want to sit down and just do some sewing or do some knitting, and I can't be distracted with my knitting. I'm obsessed with this jumper at the moment, and do you want me to show you? Just a sec. I'm obsessed with this jumper at the moment. I only started it last week and I've already nearly done the body. It's got little fox heads on the top, and yeah, I'm delighted with it. It's a lovely little jumper, and I've done it in like Lopi Icelandic wool, and again it was just stuff that I had in the house that had been sitting there for a while. Didn't know what to do with it, and this seemed like the perfect pattern, so yeah. But the only thing is, nothing else is getting done because I'm sitting there knitting on that. If you're interested in craft and knitting, by the way, I've got another channel called Faithful Ewe Knitting Podcast. I'll pop a link in the description bar for you. But I do all my handcrafts over there, and I do a knitting podcast and share all my knitting that I'm doing. So that's in that knitting podcast for this week. I've got a new video I've just uploaded yesterday. So if you are interested in that, do pop over there and have a look at my other channel as well, and maybe some other things that you might be interested in. So the only other thing I've got to share with you today is something that my mum gave me. Oh, just a sec, I've dropped it. Right, it's something that my mum gave me, and it was this little book here called Favourite Family Recipes. Now my mum's written a couple of recipes in it already, and what you do is you just write your recipes in, and then you can keep a record of them. Now this is something I started when I first got married, and I can't find the book at the moment. I need to find it, because it was like an A5 book, and all the recipes I used to make when we first got married, I used to write them down so I could remember how, anything he liked, I'd write it down, and then I could remember how to make it for next time so we'd enjoy it the second time. Never works that way, does it? You can make a recipe, it'll be absolutely gorgeous, and then you come to make it again and it's a disaster. So I'm hoping this is going to be a useful tool. But I've got this, but I've also got this nice little book here, and I thought I could start making a book of all the different things that I'm making, my jams, my preserves, my ferments, my sauerkraut and things like that, things that I cook in here. And then I can make up my own recipe book of things that work on this stove and in this stove. And yeah, other people can then follow along. You never know, I might publish it as a book at some point. But yeah, I've got a book here. So I have been writing a few things in this one, but I'm also going to start this one and use this one for just the stove and the things that I do on the stove. So like natural dyes and stuff like that as well. So yeah, that's what's going to be happening on the stove. So that's a good idea. Instead of going out and buying loads and loads of recipe books, if you find something online that you really like, do yourself up a little book like this, keep hold of the recipes, and then you can refer back to them time and time again. Because I find with recipe books when I buy them, there's always so many flipping ingredients in them. I mean, there's a MasterChef book there, and there's like 10 ingredients in each recipe. I've got a what's her name, Sophie Dahl, and it's a lovely book, but yeah, I just couldn't afford the ingredients, so it just sits there on the shelf at the moment and doesn't get used. But this will be a great way for you to design and keep hold of recipes that suit you and suit your family, and then you can just refer back to it. And if you're ever sick or something, at least then your partner or your children can then go and get your book out. You can say, well, let's have this for tea, and you can talk them through the recipe. So yeah, I just think that's a really good way of organising yourself when it comes to meal times. And also, if you ever have power cuts and you can't get your information off your laptop, or something worse ever happens, At least then you've got copies of your recipes all written down in hard copy, and maybe even pass them on to your children one day or your grandchildren. So yeah, they're my tips for today. Last thing is my new Ewe Garden catalogue has turned up for 2023, so I'm going to have a mooch through there because I've got some vouchers to spend with them, and I'm going to see if there's anything for the garden. I pretty much got everything that they sell, I think, but they were doing an offer this week of I'm not sponsored by them, by the way, I just like them, of these bags, and if you order off them then you can get these bags for $1.99. So yeah, I'm going to see if there's anything in the catalogue, and then I'm going to order those bags. So I'm just waiting for the Gardener's World offers to change, because if you go on Gardener's World website on the internet, they do gardening offers, and I get most of my plants through those offers through Gardener's World, because sometimes they just pay the postage offers, and sometimes they're really, really good. I got peonies this time and they were £4.99, just pay the postage. So you get 2 in a pack, so they're going to be really nice in the garden. So I'm going to start them off in pots, and then when the weather warms up I'll pot them on. So yeah, you've had plenty of frugal tips for you today. I'm going to do a video for you, and I'll do a voiceover with it of doing my sewing, and you can see what I'm doing and cutting my patterns out, and doing the elastic on those 2 skirts. If you can figure out how to darn the socks, I may do a little video about darning the socks as well. I'll try it out on the first pair. If it works, then I'll show you on the second pair. So I think that's it for today. I'm going to sign off now, get my cup of coffee, get warm in front of the fire, and I will see you soon. There is a video coming up for you in the next few days of a day in the life in a Welsh cottage, and that is going to be a voiceover video for you, and it's just showing you what life is like here on a windy, wet, cold day in Wales, which it is today. So I've done a bit of filming of that for you this morning, of lighting the fire, seeing the chickens, getting the firewood. So yeah, that's going to be a nice little video for you coming up, and I'll put some little bits of me sewing today as well in that video, and some cooking as well. So yeah, anyway, that's it for me for today. I hope you've have a lovely day. I hope you're having a great week, and take care, and I will see you next time, and every blessing to you. So see you soon. Bye bye.